is much more than about our economy. It is about the future of our country. Canadian sovereignty and identity are non-negotiable. Canadians have had enough, and we are a strong country. We'll defend our sovereignty, we'll defend our jobs, and we'll defend our way of living.
These continued tariff measures and the necessary and appropriate response that comes from Canada is not a constructive path to be on. If you're like racing to the basement, there's no real prize for being the first person to get to the basement.
Federal ministers hitting back at fresh steel and aluminum tariffs with dollar-for-dollar reciprocal tariffs on a suite of American goods totaling just under $30 billion. It's the latest chapter in the ongoing saga that is now our relationship with the U.S. Just 24 hours ago, the White House, for example, backed off a threat to double those steel and aluminum tariffs after Ontario's premier climbed down himself on an export tax for electricity headed south. Here's what Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had to say about that.
We're going to lower the temperature. You know, he thought he'd be sort of the big man and tackle Donald Trump. But you know you can't tackle Donald Trump. He is the most important, the smartest, the most capable leader in the world. And he's not going to let someone push him around.
Ontario's Premier and federal ministers LeBlanc and Champagne are headed to D.C. to meet with that gentleman, Howard Lutnick, tomorrow. To what end? Sharon Carr is the former Deputy Chief of Staff to former Finance Minister Bill Morneau. She's now a partner at Sovereign Advisory. Jamie Ellerton is a conservative strategist and the founder and principal of Canaptus Limited. Former interim NDP National Director Carl Belanger is with us. He's now the president of Traction Strategies. And Hannah Thibodeau is a former news anchor. She's now an executive communications officer at Global Public Affairs. Hey, guys, to what end? They're taking this meeting, Carl, tomorrow after that yo-yo seesaw thing that I just attempted to paint out. What will you be watching for as they head to Washington?
Well, I mean, just hearing Lutnick now, what is there to watch but another circus? Because, you know, you facing the most intelligent, the strongest, whatever they call Donald Trump in that office. And, you know, there's nobody that's reasonable around him, it seems. That's the sad reality. In his first term, there was a bunch of professional Republican staffers around him, and, you know, they could kind of control him. Now it's all yes men around him. He's the smartest man. You just heard it. So I'm not expecting much. What I'm looking forward to is what will be the response of Canada when they're told, you know, to just play along with what Donald Trump wants to do.
Yeah, I'm interested in that as well, Hannah, because I think yesterday was sort of this odd experience where there was, you know, export taxes and they were staying on until the threats were removed, and then the threat was not removed, but the export taxes were, then this meeting arrived. Like, something might have to materialize if the meeting is all for naught.
I think something is likely to materialize from this. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but if you listen to Mr. Carney today, he says that once he becomes prime minister, because he's not the interlocutor right now until he's prime minister, once he becomes prime minister, he says he'll sit down with Donald Trump if he stops, you know, messing with Canadian sovereignty, essentially. Now, I did have a chance to speak with someone who was involved in the Trump 1.0 administration. And what they're saying for the Trump 2.0 administration, I said, come on, with this 51st state thing, is this actually true? And I asked a crowd today, did you believe that? Everybody put their hands up. This person who worked in the administration said, no, this isn't something he's really going after. What he's going after is that was something that popped in his head. And this might make Canadians feel a little bit better, because I think we do need to take a breath, take some of the emotion out of it, because we're going to be dealing with this guy and this administration for at least the next 4 years, and potentially longer. That's kind of a joke. But what they said is that is not true, in fact, that popped in his head. And now it's kind of something that's funny to him, is to use that. And he was really poking fun at Prime Minister, our current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, because the relationship was so bad between those two men. What they did say is this is a prime opportunity to reset that relationship with either, well, with new leadership, temporarily likely with Mark Carney, who will become the prime minister later this week, and after an election campaign, whoever wins that election campaign. But they have to go in and deal with someone who is this agent of chaos and likes to make everybody uncomfortable. So you have to take a breath and take the emotion out of it.
I guess I wonder, Jamie, and I'm interested in both your insurance thoughts about the degree to which there can be that reset at this moment in time. Yes, we will have a, I think as of Friday, there'll be a swearing-in ceremony, so we'll be able to have officially a new prime minister. But like Hannah points out, we're headed straight into an election campaign, which adds its own kind of uncertainty with respect to this relationship with the U.S. at this moment in time, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think this is just a joke, though. I think this is actually incredibly serious, and he's shown he's essentially willing to throw the entire international world order up in the air and make everyone guess. I think of what Dan Gardner, former Ottawa Citizen journalist and author, had to say over the weekend of how the Europeans have got the message and are clearly uniting and having a very vigorous and sustained response that they're less reliant on America. Meanwhile, you have Canadian politicians trying to do this like shuttle diplomacy thing, trying to figure out what the inside track for a deal is to get some semblance of back to normal. Like the meeting tomorrow, ostensibly, I guess, is supposed to be how do we reopen USMCA renegotiations to kind of get there. And yet here we are now going on month 4, where we've seen little evidence that the country is actually making a serious turn towards a new normal that's less reliant on America. And I think as a result, Canada is going to continue to suffer. We're kind of engaged in this busy work of hoping that a new normal is just a day away, and it never seems to come, and it's only getting further and further and worse.
It's interesting you use the word normal, because I interviewed the industry minister, Sharon, who's also headed to that meeting tomorrow, who said that was part and parcel of their objective. Ford says it's about USMCA or part of it. The federal ministers say, no, it's not. But he said, we have to get back to normal. There needs to be some normalcy. And it almost prompts the question, like, is that? It feels difficult to imagine that is even possible given what is on the public record.
Yeah, and it's really difficult for people who have not actually been around him to understand what's actually inside his head. And it's actually interesting because what Hannah's hearing is a lot of what I've heard from some of the people that I've stayed in touch with from the first administration, who were generally a lot of Bush people. So they kind of had the Republican Party as their base and wanted to support it, and hence supporting him. But they have no idea what the end game here is beyond Donald Trump. The president has a bee in his bonnet. He is frustrated with the amount of money that Canada spends on defense. He has a very big issue with the current administration, i.e. the Prime Minister and the former Finance Minister, Christopher Freeland. It's very personal for him, and he finds that that's where this joke came up from. But it's hard for us to take it as a joke and not be serious about it, because if you watch the White House press secretary briefing yesterday, where it was lunacy, like complete lunacy, it's hard not to take it serious. So the level of normalcy, I think, would basically be maybe crazy behind the scenes, but in public, maybe we can just chill out on the tariff threats. Maybe we can chill out on the annexation. Maybe he can chill out on the fake border stuff. Is he going to get there? I don't think so. He has nothing to lose. He is basically controlling global markets with what he tweets, what he says, how he says it, and is kind of scaring the living crap out of a lot of people, because everyone is scared. So whether or not they can get to normalcy, I don't think so. But I do believe that there will be a reset with Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney and his refreshed team down there. And I do think that while what Doug Ford, the Premier, did yesterday probably solidified him to be Premier for life, I don't know if that's going to work again, right? This whole threatening, we're going to do this, we're going to pull your power.
Oh, sure. I guess Doug Ford pulled the power already on that one.
That's it.
Just one last question to you about that. Is there going to come a time, though, where there's the lack of normalcy, the comments, the meetings that don't result in anything will force a change in approach? I don't know what the change is, but to the Canadian government, like by the Canadian government.
Well, I mean, I think Jamie said it right. You need to start diversifying now. Yeah, you need to find other partners now, and you need to focus on that instead of trying to, create a normalcy that will not come until Donald Trump is gone. When will he be gone? And we heard rumors that he could be the vice president candidate's next cycle. So he could be there for another 12 years for all we know. So I think that's the way forward. And so that's the way forward. You need to find new partners. And if it means maybe try to cool the relationship with China a little bit, if it means going closer to Europe, so be it, because the United States is not any longer a reliable partner.